Boy oh boy, what a little venting can do for your sanity. Before we jump into the video, I would like to thank you guys for your very active participation in the comment section of my previous upload. I was honestly surprised to find out that so many people managed to share their frustration without getting too derogatory. And it wasn't just all doom and gloom in the comments either, some of you left very insightful pieces of criticism and advice. And one such comment has really got me to think. No, not this one. Here it is. It is obvious that most Overwatch players are burned out right now. The toxicity is going up and the fun is no more. Doing too much PvP is doing this sort of thing. Overwatch needs PvE content or this game is going to suffer a lot. The arcade is not enough. It is still PvP. Heck, I'm playing like once a week and then I take a 2-month break because if I don't, my mind is going to break. Where's the fun in this? I really love this game, but a lot of people are frustrated more than they have fun, and this is not good at all. While I do not want to make a broad statement on how the lack of PvE content is going to affect the player base and the enjoyment of the game, this comment still got me thinking. I was always an advocate for Blizzard adding PvE content to the game, but I never really thought much about it beyond just saying yes, I want it. So this comment actually got me thinking, what would this PvE content look like?
Next week, we are going to be getting a story-driven PvE event where we fight and attack Rebel Omnic.
Are you fucking serious? I was almost done with my fucking video, and then this happens. Great! Okay, so what's up guys, Discount Force here, and today I'm going to talk about PvE content in Overwatch because apparently I'm a copycat like that. All jokes aside, Force actually made a pretty good video talking about what a potential PvE game mode could look like with the upcoming event, and if you have not seen it yet, I highly recommend you do so. But what I want to focus on today is slightly different. It's not a brawl of sword edit with an event, I'm talking about story DLC. Now I know that this word alone triggers a lot of players, and that rightfully so, but why is that? When Overwatch was originally released, I would argue that it was not worth the asking price of 40 euros. I am not claiming that the production costs associated with making this game would warrant this price tag, but when it came to the content delivered to the player, at the time of launch, this game was certainly overpriced. But I mean, it's Blizzard, people will buy it either way, and so we all bought into a promise. While yes, the game was extremely limited when it came to the content it delivered, we were promised free updates in the future that would add to the value of the title. So has that notion changed 1 year later? For everyone who picked up the game at launch, yes. If you played actively during the first 12 months of release, I would argue that you got your money's worth. New heroes were added to the game, new maps as well, and most importantly, new game modes in the form of the arcade and now also the custom game server browser. All of this has undoubtedly added to the value of the game, but what about people who want to pick it up just now? Honestly, it's still not the easiest sell. After all, everyone who played actively got to experience a whole bunch of events that featured even more new game modes and also new cosmetics. So at this point in time, you are still buying into a promise. However, that promise has been fulfilled in the past, so we have no reason to believe that it would just suddenly stop hosting events, which makes a purchase decision a fair bit easier. When it comes down to assessing whether or not this game is worth 40 bucks, everyone has to make the decision for themselves. People value different things, and while I'm sitting here saying, hell yes, I got my money's worth with hundreds of hours of gameplay, others might disagree. Now when it comes down to adding story DLC, players would likely argue that these should be added to the game for free, and I would argue that this is unreasonable. I would do that because while I don't have the exact figures of how expensive it is to create a game, making story-based PvE content with voice acting, custom animations, maybe even new maps or map edits, all of that is very expensive. It is very expensive for something that is not part of the original Overwatch package, which is a purely PvP based game. But no matter how rationally I try to approach this subject, there is still a lot of entitlement involved in the gaming community. The notion that if you pay a price once, you should get everything else that is added to the game in the future for free, which obviously is no way of sustaining a game in the long run. Development for new features costs money and hosting servers is not exactly free either. So if we were to be rational and agree that the story DLC would come with a price tag associated with it, what would it have to deliver to be worth our money? For a lot of people, replayability is going to be important, some degree of difficulty scaling to allow for varying rewards, but also for player improvement to take place. Furthermore, it would need to be a cooperative experience. At its core, Overwatch is still a multiplayer game, so a lot of people would want to play through these PvE missions with their friends. If matchmaking was to be enabled for these DLC, it would need to be adjusted in difficulty to make it so one player messing up does not cause the entire group to fail the mission, because that is one of the key problems causing frustration in the PvP game modes right now. When it comes to the actual gameplay involved with these, it is difficult for me to find a middle ground between what I think the game needs and what I personally want, because what I would want would be a story-driven co-op experience with cutscenes that really dives deep into the lore of the universe. However, if we talk about PvE content as a supplement for PvP, then something that flows well in terms of gameplay and is not interrupted by cutscenes all the time would be more important. Something like Junkenstein's Revenge, but rather than being stationary in one small part of the map, have the environment change frequently. A level of randomness would add to the excitement of it as well, like randomized boss encounters, map events, or mini-bosses. Balancing these will be a little difficult since you want the game mode to stay challenging, but you also don't want to end up in a situation where a group of players fail because of a randomized encounter. But all these ideas already drive away from the original concept of a story-based DLC. When it comes to a PvP supplement, something that players can get their teeth stuck into when they're frustrated with ranked, and they don't want to compete against other players while being dependent on their own team not messing up, it would need to be something mindless. Essentially, what we need will be something like Junkenstein's Revenge on a bigger map, including more player movement. Or maybe a horde mode where you have to deliver the payload. Something that flows well, has multiple satisfying difficulty levels, and rewards that give players an incentive to actively play. And that outside of being fed up with ranked. And these kinds of game modes, I would argue, deviate so far from the original idea of a story DLC that I would say yes, they should be free. This is purely adding more value to the game. It's about keeping the players in Overwatch even when they are frustrated with PvP. It's essentially the core of the title of this video. I honestly think that this is what Overwatch needs. If we come back to the original concept of adding story DLC for the heroes featuring plotlines, voice acting, custom events and all that, I think the production of these would far exceed any asking price players are willing to pay. I honestly can't come up with a business model that would make something like this viable. I mean, they would have to be sufficiently long to tell a coherent and satisfying story. They would probably need to add different gameplay elements for every hero. They would have to create individual cutscenes, multiple of which for every piece of DLC. And all of that just sounds like it would make way more sense to create an entirely new Overwatch single player game and sell that as a standalone. Which again is something that I would pay good money for. But sound off down in the comment section below and let me know what you guys think about this. Do you agree with Overwatch needing PvE game modes, something mindless compared to PvP with sufficient replayability? If so, what do you think these game modes should look like? And what about a standalone Overwatch single player game? Or do you have better ideas on how to incorporate a satisfying amount of storytelling without disrupting game flow? I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys can come up with. But this is me done for the day as I talk about the idea of PvE content in Overwatch. As always, if you enjoyed the video, do let me know by dropping me a like on your way out. Subscribe if you want to see more, and hope to see you all next time.
Break out this. No problem.
There we go. Dude! These guys just like, they give no fucks. They're like, you just revived? Fuck you, they just killed everybody again. Holy shit.